Starting then with the glycemic index. The glycemic index is a system for comparing foods to determine whether they're fast or slow sugars, as per that term I was just mentioning. Um, so essentially, you give someone a certain amount of food that has sugars in it, and then you measure their blood sugar over their blood glucose levels over a 2-hour period to determine how much of the sugar that was in the food actually made it into the bloodstream in that short period of time. So it's a very useful guide, but it's very rough. On the one hand, this is because it measures the area and ignores the peak. So if we look, for example, here at glycemicindex.com, they have some sample curves. And so let's say that this high GI value here gave you a value of 100. Well, you can get the same 100 value by taking about half of this at the start here and putting it at the end. And so you have this curve that just goes this high and stays pretty steady. So it should be obvious from what we were looking at earlier that this makes a huge difference to your body, because it's when sugar gets this high that you have a strong insulin reaction, and that you have sugar being turned to fat, and also a risk of having a really strong sugar low after eating. Um, uh, so uh, Other things as well, anything that tries to kind of reduce the complexity of food to a single number, obviously is simplifying things quite a bit. Um, there's a lot of variance in the results. If you look at the database of results, you'll see that different apples have given different values at different times, I guess. It might have been a different variety of apple, or more or less ripe. But how you cook food also has a big impact. So the glycemic index can help highlight how important it is to cook food less or more or differently. But it also kind of adds more variance that just makes it a bit harder to find patterns that are directly applicable. But the biggest problem with the glycemic index is that it measures only glucose and it ignores fructose. So fructose is a 5-carbon sugar, and glucose is 6. And so when we have too much fructose, to convert it back into glucose, we can't do that directly. Instead, we convert fructose directly into glycogen. Um, so so you can't really tell in your blood sugar, in your blood glucose levels, whether you've eaten a lot of fructose or not. And again, fructose turns to fat, just like glucose.